My name's Chris.
And I'm Christine.
And this is the Washing Up Podcast, and we are back from our weekend of alcohol.
Yes, it was an indulgent weekend. It was a veritable bacchanalian, minus the orgy and ecstatic trance.
But adding in a helicopter ride.
Yeah, you don't get those back in ancient Rome, do you, bitches?
Well, not that we've ever seen reports of. The Doctor does travel, though.
He does.
So, tonight was a very intriguing episode, and we're going to be lighthearted, but there's a few serious conversations that have to happen
there
tonight.
There is, indeed, yeah.
There really are. Let's start with the positive, shall we? Peter Gilmore.
Oh, he's a good dude, isn't he?
It's good to see Peter Gilmore, and it was good because it's a chef they know.
I know, it's like, Peter Gilmore, we know you made a snow egg.
Yeah, and they're looking at him, and it's like, you know, from Key and Benelong, and they're like, yes, we know. We don't have to pretend. We don't have to pretend. Finally, it's not Victorian Junior Young Chef of the Year 2013,
specialising in Mexican food from the Southwest region
in 1946 to 1949.
Yes.
And they go, oh, he's one of my favourites. Now this is someone they can identify. So they've had two in a row. They've had Heston Blumenthal, and now they've got Peter Gilmore. So there's two they can identify.
Ooh.
And the thing is, you have to, if you're going on MasterChef, there are a few things you do need to know.
Peter Gilmore.
Peter Gilmore is one of them. You have to know Peter Gilmore because, you know, they frequently will get him in to do a challenge or two or three. So you need to know Peter Gilmore. Now, the mystery box.
Yes.
Abalone.
Abalone. It's that food you hear is fancy. People die trying to get it. And like that Abalone Divers show where the dude actually died.
Oh,
was eaten by a shark.
The South Australian Abalone Wars
Abalone Wars, that's what it is. And then, because, you know, apparently...
I mistook that and I thought this was about abalone Civil War recreationists. You know,
that'd be great.
That dress up off the Great Australian Bight in like Southern and Union Army, Confederate and Union Army outfits, and then go out and recreate the great Civil War battles.
My great-great-great-grandfather fought
was eaten at Appomattox. Anyway, so it was an interesting, and everyone used the abalone, which I thought was interesting as well, because most people had no idea how to cook it, but they all went, yeah, no, we're going to use the abalone. It got very Iron Chef.
Yes, it did.
Like, again, the only time I've ever really seen abalone cooked on television is whenever there was an Iron Chef battle that involved abalone, which is one of the most expensive battles, by the way, they ever had.
That's why there's wars over this shit, you know?
Exactly. I mean, the saffron battle on Iron Chef was quite expensive, but I believe the abalone battle, I think it was over 100,000 yen was spent on abalone. And that was when it was a good exchange rate, so it was a lot of money. It wasn't, like, really cheap like it can be now. So... this became the how do you approach abalone discussion.
Yes, well, apparently you bathe it in ice-cold water.
Well, apparently you do. Now we had a couple of options here.
It's like the penis of the sea. It shrinks in the cold, I presume. And that's how you get out of its shell.
Abalone is now apparently the penis of the sea.
Yes.
I hope that out the front of Key Restaurant, whenever Peter Gilmore cooks abalone, it just says penis of the sea, K. Stanford.
Yeah. Served with my special sauce.
Topped with a creamy jus. Anyway, Tamara came up with her first approach, which was to butcher it. And they're like, you know what you're doing with it? Not really, but I think you trim this bit and 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 this bit. You're just hacking it away.
Yeah.
And someone said later on they were worried that Tamara might be eliminated. They were talking on Twitter and they were like, I think she might be in trouble. Her eyes looked really red, like she was crying and then had to get herself together. And my response was, no, they just pointed out how much the abalone cost.
And how many third world countries she could get out of.
Yeah, by the way, do you know how much abalone you've just hacked to pieces?
My worry is, though, they've gone abalone this week without any training on how to use it. They're in Japan next week. What are they preparing for the mystery box then? Fugu?
Well, that can be fun. My talented hands are busy. But what I'm worried about, actually, though, is that what we've seen every time they've done a challenge.
Yes.
Within the next 3 or 4 challenges, everyone uses that technique non-stop. So when they go to Japan and they're all suddenly using abalone like they're professionals, and meanwhile they've done it once and it's for Peter Gilmore, and not all successfully, it must be said, because they only tasted 3 of them.
There's going to be a few Japanese chefs to the side, like crying or making.
Yeah, they're going to be going,
Shinto shrine, you know.
Yeah, they're going to be sitting there going, what have we said? What have we done saying yes to this MasterChef show?
I reckon for their crimes against abalone tonight, before they start cooking, they have to go to the Shinto shrine and get the full cleansing ritual. That you can do for a price, I've heard. You know, you just make a donation.
You make a small donation and you've cleansed the abalone gods.
Yes.
So Tamara then said, when they said, how are you going to cook it? So her first idea was that she cut it the first time and cooked it, and it was to be stir-fried. And George and Gary had the most confused look I've ever seen on their faces.
Yes.
At this rubber.
Yeah.
It was rubber. So Tamara's second option. I am the god of hellfire. At which point this is burning. But apparently it worked.
Fuck it. I'm just going to set this shit on fire.
Yeah, apparently it worked.
Yeah.
Aram turns around and tells everyone, I'm going to smoke the abalone. And they're like, oh, that's interesting. So how often have you used abalone before? And he goes, I've never cooked with it. I've never eaten it. I'm like, you don't know what it tastes like? No. You've never cooked with it? No. You're smoking it? Yep. Do you know how to do that? Not really.
But good on him, because to me, Matt at that moment was like, ew, you haven't eaten abalone. Oh,
well, yeah, there was...
you born little peasant. Have you at least cooked with it? No, oh, you can't afford it. Guess what won't be on special at Coles this week?
Yeah, exactly. Now, one of the lines of the night, and I drew attention to this on social media, was, as you were saying, when they were talking, and they asked Aram about his abalone background.
None.
As you do.
Like most of us.
As you do. And
can't afford abalone on a backpacker's wage. It's fish and chips down at
And they're talking about the idea of his abalone background, and he doesn't really have this inspired abalone background. And the question was, but what do you mean you've never eaten or cooked with abalone?
I'm from England. We don't have abalone.
But the idea that it was said with such disdain
and bemusement,
which is so far out of touch with the rest of Australia, most of whom are sitting there going, I've never fucking had abalone.
Like, what part of Callan Heights are you from?
Over in Killarney. No.
Oh, you're from actual Killarney.
Actual Killarney, yeah. Now, the weird one for the first challenge was Diana.
Yes.
What was weird about it was that Diana, talking about abalone, talked about it as if she was a seasoned professional. I know how to cook this. I know how to do it. Abalone is going to be treated with great care. I'm taking a lot of care with this. I know what I'm doing with abalone. This is going to be great. I've got a good background with abalone. And they come back to her and they say, so what are you doing? I'm doing a braised abalone. And they look at the clock and they went, braised, that needs some time, doesn't it? Yeah, but I'm cutting it really thin. And, like, how long does it take? She goes, it takes 8 minutes. And she brings up the 8 minutes. They don't push her for that at first. She brings up, it takes 8 minutes. And George and Gary go, you read that somewhere? And Diana goes, no.
She's the abalone queen, darling.
And at that point...
She's from a great line of abalone revolutionaries that in the Great War of 1923...
In the abalone wars off the coast when they were recreating the Civil War.
Exactly. She's from the victorious, like... what's it called? Empire that came forth.
The Union Army. But George and Gary gave this what the fuck look. She's like, 8 minutes to braise it. I know. You know about it? Oh, you read about it? No.
Look, when we were hunkered down in the bunker.
And then she's like, her response is, but that's why I cut it really thin. And I thought that they were going to hit somebody. And then later on, when she tasted it, and she goes, it tastes really good in her voiceover to camera. Yeah. She didn't just go, it tastes really good in her voiceover. She went, it tastes really good, and gave a slight little attitude head nod. Like,
bitches.
I'm right.
Yeah.
Well, that was amusing. And guess what? They were the three they called. And apparently, Tamara knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
Aram, who knew? And that included Aram when they called him up to be tasted. And Aram's like, really?
What? That's the second time
that happens. Yeah. I mean, Aram, get some confidence about you, man. I mean, it's the second time when they've called you up to taste your dish and you've gone, no, seriously, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean you'll want to taste mine? And then Diana. So there was 3 from 3. Now, at this point, they went to ad break, about to come back for the follow-up challenge. Now, Tamara got the win. I did point out to a couple of people on Twitter that normally ends very badly when you get the benefit. Tamara instead ended up in what I like to call the parade of mediocrity, which is where you really want to be on this first challenge. You know, if you're not going to be one of those outstanding top three, you want to be in the parade of mediocrity. You don't want anyone to notice you. Hey, Gaston, how you going? We don't really know. We didn't really see you.
No, but he did some pork belly dish tonight. It's about all.
There was some crackling. They went the crackling's too much. Lies. Damned lies. Crackling is never too much.
That's such a fucking oxymoron. The crackling's too much. The crackling's too much. What? What planet are you from, Peter Gilmore?
Meanwhile, Gary's there going... Crackling.
Yeah, he's like...
Crackling's not too much. It's my fucking Twitter handle, bitch. So at this point, they go to ad break. Now, I went outside at this stage...
Because our dog was barking.
Our dog was barking. You can't hear the dog barking at the moment.
And we've set him up for winter, right? He's got this cute little coat that he's got.
You say little coat. He's a Rhodesian Ridgeback. Okay. He's about the size of a small horse.
All right. So we've got him this essential horse coat and a new bed that he can't dismember as he likes to do, which means that have you seen that ad on or that meme on the internet where it just says it just exploded? That's what he does.
That's what he does.
So... You know, we've set him up really well for winter. He's got treats galore.
And what he does, though, is that usually around MasterChef time, he decides he wants some company. And he doesn't want you to do anything. He just wants you to go out into the backyard.
Hang out.
Into the cold. Not to warm him up. He's warm. He just wants you to stand in one spot. And he will just stand near you. Don't touch you. We'll just stand near you. And then eventually, after about 15 minutes, we'll look at you and nod as if to say thank you for that. And go back to what he was doing, and he won't bark anymore. So I go downstairs to see if I can quieten him down, and he instead runs to the garage and is dragging me towards the garage. So I go to the garage to see what he wants. He then runs to the front of the garage and comes back with a tarpaulin. He then folds the tarpaulin over. At this point, I know what he wants. What I'm curious about is, why did he call me outside to watch him
hump the tarpaulin?
Yeah, I was going to say make love to the tarpaulin.
No, he just humps it.
Because he wrapped it up, looked me dead in the eyes, and started thrusting for glory. Now, by the way, he's been fixed.
Do you think we should get him a webcam because he's a bit of an exhibitionist?
Yeah, he's done this before. He's
pretty much
he had a blanket. He had a blanket the other year where he walked the blanket to the back door while I was watching television, looked at me through the back door, and just started going for glory again. I don't know what's up with him, but apparently he likes a bit of an audience. He's a bit of an exhibitionist. So
chat right away.
Yeah, if there's any sickos out there who want us to broadcast our dog with a tarpaulin, you're weird. We're not doing it.
I'm sure there are. So let's not.
Let's not. So then we got back to the challenge. Thank God for that.
Yes.
Now they were talking about Peter's previous dishes. And the phrase that stuck with me was when George said that the snow egg struck fear throughout the world.
And you've got Callan and Adam Lior staring at the egg, as I'm sure they were set up to do.
Yeah, they were
flashback.
In the flashback moment. Now you had to pick an element of the snow egg, the 8 textured chocolate cake or the cherry jam lamington. She chose the lamington, and then it was the coconut shavings.
Now, can I just point out, it was nice in the flashbacks because we got to see Teresa Viston from last year, but then they showed whoever the fucking season was that I deliberately boycotted because of the
Boys,
battle,
girls,
battle of the sexes bullshit. And I'm like, oh, that's who you were. Well, you guys suck. You're in the sucky episode. They're probably very good people, but I felt bad about that. But I couldn't have watched it. Anyway, back at the ranch.
Okay, so I wasn't actually happy with this because I thought it would have worked better if you had to pick an element. So he gave you a choice of 3 elements.
Yeah.
Rather than we're going to do this as an invention test, but you all then have to start off by cooking the same element, which was the coconut shavings. Or if you're Diana, you read the recipe and go, I can come back to those later. Who needs to freeze the coconut shavings?
But do you think it could have been a practical consideration? Because, to have all the equipment and all the ingredients to cover every single one of those recipes.
I think so. I agree 100%.
And also in that time frame.
I agree 100% with that. But then my follow-up is don't set that challenge. Don't set a challenge that technically you can't do. What you should have said was you're either going to have to do the shavings from this, the chocolate layering from this, or this crust of the snow egg. Right?
Yeah.
That's the challenge. Not an element and then go, oh, by the way, we've picked it.
Yeah.
That just seemed a bit weird because then as well, the invention test was, well, you've all got to do the shavings and then whatever on top of that. So the first half of the cook was a waste of time because everyone was doing the same thing. So in reality, you didn't have the full time for the challenge. As again, Diana found out, you just had whatever was left after the shavings.
Yeah.
Now, this is going to bring us to a bit more of a serious part of the conversation. So we'll do the serious part of the conversation first, and there's two parts to it. It does involve the same person. Now, I'm going to make this perfectly plain. It is in no way, shape, or form a shot at the person.
No.
It is not a shot at the person. In fact, if anything, we're sort of going to come to their defence a little bit.
Because it's a disservice that's been done to this person.
Because we actually think the producers are doing them a bit of harm. We're talking about Callan.
Yep.
Now, I went on a bit of a rant during this challenge, when they gave, Eloise came up and they said, what are you doing? And she mentioned the cherry dessert and sort of compared it a little bit to a cherry ripe. And Gary looked at her and went, no, don't do that, because we don't want to compare it to Peter's dish. It needs to be different. Don't go with that flavour combination. It's going to be too close.
And they came down hard on her.
Yeah.
Like they really...
It wasn't a you might not want to. It was don't.
No. Now, Diana, who was doing those flavours, didn't get mentioned at all.
No, they didn't do anything with Diana.
There was no intervention there at all.
Which then brings us to Callan. Callan mentions the exact same flavour profile that Eloise. To the letter almost exactly.
Yep.
They didn't say no. They ummed and ahed and were a little bit quiet.
They started to kind of put it, and he goes, oh, but I'm going to do a volcano. And they're like, oh, what do you do?
And the
volcano.
second he went, but I'm going to do a bit of a volcano with it. That suddenly changed their mind, and they went, go ahead. You know, you do something crazy all the time, Callan. This is your sort of dessert. Now...
No, he doesn't.
Here's the thing. If you've just told one contestant they can't make that dish, and it wasn't you're banned from it, but they basically said to her, don't do it.
We'll directly compare you.
And then you say to Callan, that's a great idea, the theatrical part is going to be amazing, but then you keep on telling everyone it's a flavour profile competition. You've just set Callan, one of two things is going to happen. The volcano effect is going to work, and by the way, for a volcano effect, it wasn't really a volcano effect. It was the cherry jam in with the bicarb, and that's probably also impacted then on that sauce, which they said didn't balance. I wonder why. He had bicarb in it.
And also the shape of his thing was wrong. You got to have the cone shape because the extra pressure helps it go through.
So it was never going to work. But one of two things will happen. It will either work spectacularly and then you'll tell everyone this is great and this is fantastic, and Eloise is going to be sitting there going, but you told me not to do that.
Yep.
That's a double standard, which is where I was going at this point.
Yeah.
Or the second thing's going to happen for poor Callan, which is that the volcano's not going to work. Then they're going to taste it and they're going to go, look.
It's a poor man's version of...
it's a poor man's version of Peter's dish, and what do you think you're doing? So they've done Callan a huge disservice. Now, this ties into something else relating again to Callan, and not a shot at Callan at all.
But editing-wise, all they've done is show Callan talking himself up.
Yep.
Like, Heston week, this is my week. And all the way, I like to use crazy ingredients and, crazy flavours and stuff, which he very well might be doing. But so far, all we've seen him pull out are granitas and snow.
Everyone else has been allowed a natural progression through the competition.
Yep.
Like, they've gone to some extravagant things, but they haven't gone from 0 to 100. They've built their skills up over time. They've done a dish that's a little bit more complex to build their confidence up. It feels a little bit in the competition like Callan's been talked up by the judges and the producers a little bit, to the point where he feels he can't just make this progression, that he has to go from 0 to 100.
That he's already boy genius.
Yep.
And, he's for his age group, this is what I'm kind of picturing. He's grown up watching MasterChef and been a massive fan. And you can see that in things like, Heston Week is this and Peter Gilmore is that. He's kind of like living a fanboy's dream, but also has some natural talent to go along with it.
And he showed that talent very early on.
Yeah. But it's again, that natural progression hasn't happened. It's like Mish as well. She was kind of set up as the dessert queen, yet was never given a chance to shine.
And then it became a point where, like Callan, I think Callan had a couple of points where you could see what he wanted to do, but then it's almost like the producers and the judges sort of got in his ear a little bit and talked him. And he's gone, oh, this is like Heston week, right?
Yeah.
This is my week. I love Heston. This is my week. Tries to go complete Heston really early on, is out by night 2.
Yeah, to the point where, he used liquid nitrogen just be fucking cause.
Yep. I have to use liquid nitrogen because it's a very Heston thing. No.
It's an elimination, and you're just doing something for shits and
you
giggles.
have to be using, and again, this is the where I think that they've done a huge disservice to Callan, is that I feel that the problem is here, he hasn't been able to find the natural growth of his dishes. I think what you saw from Ben in Heston Week was a natural progression. Like, he knows that Heston likes the weird. So that first night, what he did was didn't try to go something ultra crazy, didn't actually do anything to his dish to change it, went and got some of the Murray water and put some of the ice in there, so the dry ice in there, so the fragrance of the river would come through, but didn't change the dish. Then by the end of it was altering things so that it was more Heston in the cooking. But that built up over time and confidence.
Well, it's like Eliza's journey as well. She's been pretty quiet in the early days and doing it consistently well. And then just in the past couple of weeks, she stepped up a notch.
Yep.
And it's the same with Eloise. Eloise was good from day one. And she's had a bit of shakiness, and we were all a bit over the whiskey and dessert bar. But then we got behind her because it's like, she knows what she's fucking doing.
And the other one I'll raise is Carly.
Yep.
Carly was very quiet early on, but Carly in the last few weeks has just consistently hit her stride because she was allowed to grow into the competition.
Yep.
You get someone like...
She didn't have a preconceived story to fill.
Yep, you get someone like a Callan who's young, who's highly enthusiastic, which is perfect. Don't dull the enthusiasm, but let him discover the competition. Don't force it. And it just feels forced.
It does, particularly when you've got, like, the judges coming up and going, they've come down hard on Eloise. Like, they've obviously know she's got potential. And they're like, no, you can't do this. Like, this is insta-fail. And then they come up to Callan, and as soon as he goes, I'm doing a volcano, and they're like, oh, it's wacky Callan.
But the other thing was, in the judging they showed, and I'm talking about the judging they showed, again, we don't know what the full comments were because it was edited. But in the judging that they showed for Callan, they showed them talking about, oh, well, you have to try these things. The volcano didn't work. Then they went, oh, look, the dessert's kind of a little bit unbalanced. But they didn't really smash him hard on it. They just went a little... There were a few other people they were a bit more critical of.
Like Diana, they're like, well, we're directly judging this against Pete's.
Yeah.
Because of the cherry.
And then we ended up with Callan being the first one of the three to be in the bottom 3.
Yeah.
And it came out of sort of left field a little bit. Because all episode they've been telling you how awesome he'd done. And even when he failed, they're telling you how awesome he did, but then gone, but you're still bottom 3. It's like, you're not helping him.
No.
And I'm not even talking now in there. I'm talking about with public. Yep. The public perception is... Tonight, I can tell you from social media that I observed, the public perception of the social media tonight was, what are they doing? Callan's getting a lot here. And Eloise, if she ends up in the bottom 3, they'll be held to pay. Now, fortunately, and this lets us move back on, Eloise...
Smashed it out of the park.
Absolutely smashed that follow-up dessert out of the park.
Yep.
And, I mean, I was a bit worried by the fact they seemed confused by why she had less time than everybody else. I'm like, you made her change a whole dish.
Yeah.
But...
Like, that shat me too. Like, Matt wanders over and goes, oh, well, you were in the woods when we last saw you, and where are you at now? It's like... She's just had to whole fucking revamp her dish.
You put her in the woods. But she found a way out of there with the grilled nectarine, the lemon rosemary ice cream. Eloise just blitzed her way out. And I don't think I've been happier to see someone make a top 3. I don't think I've been happier because I think Eloise's cook tonight was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
She did a great job. The other one, and I know that it is one of my faves, Sarah.
That was good.
Sarah goes savoury, and boy, did Sarah go savoury.
And I love her logic. She's like, okay, coconuts used in Thai food. People would usually set this up to be a dessert dish. I'm going to go savoury and
then she thought deeper as well. She went with the Thai dishes, so it'd be a seafood, so maybe a scallop.
Yeah.
And then she talked about the idea of using it. And they're there going, and this is something else that we've seen in the last few weeks. When the judges come over and do that thing that they do where they try to destabilise your cook, it's the people that have the constitution to stand there and go, no.
Yep.
Who do really, really well. Last week when when George put the pressure on Eliza, and Eliza basically told him to go to hell, she just creamed it.
You know what? I want a supercut of that with the Wonder Woman song coming in the back where it's like it's like screaming guitar.
So,
and Carly, just whipping out her sword and shield and going back the fuck off.
So, but I thought it was brilliant to see Sarah just go, no, this is going to work. And then when they tasted it and they've just gone, yeah, that really worked. That's a really good idea. And the other one that I was intrigued by is, and we'll go through the few more of the people in a minute, but the other one I was intrigued by in the similar vein, we didn't see much of the cook, but Carly made the prawns. So Carly also did the seafood idea and did the sambal prawns with the spicy sambal prawns and the flavour of the prawns and the flavour of the coconut together.
Yeah.
Balanced absolutely beautifully. And I'm like, in my head I'm going, of course they would. You've got the sort of the coconut sort of flavour which would be used to take the sting out of it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got on the other hand you've got the spice of the prawn. I thought that was a really good idea.
Absolutely.
And Eliza, I thought my favourite trolling moment of the night was Eliza doing a granita. Eliza trolling. I did a granita, and the judges tasted it and went, if I got that in between courses, I'd be happy. That's a beautiful dish. Then we had the parade of mediocrity. Tamara, Sam, Carly, Ben, hey Gaston. And again, the parade of mediocrity, if you're not in the top, if you're not going to be in the top, you want to be in the parade.
Exactly.
You don't want to be mentioned at all in the episode. You don't want them to reference it. I commented on Twitter tonight, where's Gaston? And somebody's reply to me was...
Safe.
Being safe. So he did really well. Aram, great idea. The flavours didn't quite balance, and I thought that was a miracle that was what they complained about. Because we all saw what happened when he went to turn the mousse out.
It's like blop.
I've
seen logs created like that, and
you were a nurse. So
I was a nurse.
You were a nurse, so you've seen those logs. But I like the fact that sort of again, Aram has been coming out of his shell a little bit more.
Yes,
which has been good, and I like the fact that he referenced that he's seen a lot of Peter's dishes. I thought that might have been while he was working bar trying to obtain his visa.
That's when he was down doing Vivid in Sydney.
Oh, in Vivid. My bad. Again, Aaron, please, if you've got that visa, let me know. We'll sponsor you if we need to.
And we did see tonight with a little bit of Gaston watch. We've seen his new kind of like stand-in bro, which is Sam.
Yes, Sam has replaced Ray in the bromance. I mean, I know there was sort of a trio of bromance going on there, but yeah, Sam's de facto Ray at the moment.
It's like Community when Troy leaves. Oh, sorry for spoilers, okay? And Ahmed's just there like, what am I going to do? And so he's trying to find someone to kind of fill that void. So.
I think it's been really interesting to watch that Sam and Ben bromance develop. Ray, let us know how you're going, dude. I mean, Ray Watch is coming. As you can hear,
we're almost there.
Somebody's voice is almost back at singing levels. And when it hits singing levels, we're on.
It's on.
So we're almost back to normal. Now, we mentioned as well, Diana did cherries and chocolate and they didn't complain about it. Also with Diana's one, though, Diana's got a message to anyone who wants to go into a cooking show. Read the recipe carefully. Don't just skim the recipe and then decide you know what it says. Because Diana skimmed the recipe and just sort of went, I see you got to make the shaving, so I'm going to do that last. Now, in my head, I was thinking, it's frozen coconut. You're going to need some time to chill that. And then they're talking about you got to do this first because you got to freeze it. But logically in my head, I'm thinking to myself, you need some time to chill that.
But it's also like, okay, it doesn't matter what goes with this. If I'm missing these coconut shavings, I'm fucked. And what if you have to do them again? You're fucked. So you've got to have that element. You can throw stuff together at the last minute if you need to. And, maybe make the parade of mediocrity, but you don't want to be missing that vital element.
Now, the other one that we need to mention before we finish up is Nicole. Now,
poor Rose Tyler. The doctors abandoned her.
What annoyed me about this was that we didn't even see her at any point during the cook, and then suddenly her dish wasn't up to scratch.
No, it's like, meh.
So they're preparing her for the parade of mediocrity. Next minute, she's not in the parade of mediocrity. She's going to be in the bottom three.
Yeah.
And it just seemed to come out of absolutely nowhere. So I think that, again, the editing was a bit interesting tonight, and I think that some of the choices they've made with the way they've moved a few people around haven't helped those people.
Yeah.
But what I will say is the general standard of cooking is still ridiculously good.
Absolutely.
I'd like to see them get back to a bit more savoury. I think that... I actually think, to be honest with you, I think the desserts are a little bit boring.
Yeah, there's only so much at the moment you can do with desserts.
Yeah, I think that the desserts are a little bit boring in contrast to when they have to do a savoury dish. So I'd like to see some more savoury. Tomorrow night, the Jamaican food looks...
Oh, Caribbean.
A Caribbean, yes.
Because someone's going to be crowned a Caribbean queen.
Sing's coming back.
The same dream. See, almost there. Almost Ray Watch quality.
Almost Ray Watch quality.
Yeah.
You can't quite... We actually attempted the Ray Watch tones and it's not quite there, especially when you get to the yelling bit of Ray'll be there.
Yeah,
it doesn't quite work. It sort of becomes squeaky teen.
Yeah, like we experimented with my voice in the car trip, and I can do the quieter versions of It's Oh So Quiet with Björk. Who else did we find that was a bit of a discovery?
I deliberately went through and picked all of the low tone singers.
Yeah. Red Hot Chili Peppers, Under the Bridge was all right.
You were great as the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You were brilliant in Red Hot Chili Peppers.
You know, it was really good. Drinking an espresso martini. That was brilliant.
Yeah, I need to remember that you don't have my constitution for alcohol.
Had my first hangover in quite a while, people. I'm not 16 I'm 18 anymore.
Well, meanwhile I was up and in the spa at 7 o'clock in the morning.
I know.
I'm bulletproof, ladies and gentlemen, bulletproof.
Yeah.
And with that, I think we need to wrap this episode up for now. So hopefully on Tuesday we've got a little bit more fun stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Now, we know this one had a little bit more of a serious tone in the middle of it, but we felt that, especially over the last few weeks, kind of needed to address a few points that I think aren't helping people. And we wanted to make it clear as well, because it can come across to some people, I think, like it's picking on people.
No.
And that's not the case at all. As I said, I actually think that poor Callan is getting hurt by the way he's being represented.
Yeah.
So it's more of a case of just sort of making people more aware of the fact that Callan, wasn't being represented necessarily the way that he is on the show and what he's setting out to do. So, but with that in mind, we'll hopefully be back to normal next episode.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have that Ray Watch episode coming up in the very near future.
Well, fingers crossed.
Because we're really keen to do it.
It's not jinx it.
Ray needs a quality send-off.
He does.
He needs a quality send-off.
Yeah.
And with that, my name's been Chris.
I'm Christy.
And we'll catch you all later.
Ciao.